We at the African Export-Import Bank, we take the intra-African trade extremely seriously and important. This is one of the fundamental reasons why the founding fathers of the bank created our institution, the African Export-Import Bank. And under the stewardship of President Orama, we've created a new initiative called the Intra-African Trade Initiative, which is to promote intra-African trade and facilitate intra-African trade. Intra-African trade is the pillar of our existence. It is the reason why we as an institution exist, to be able to promote trade movement of goods and services between African countries. We don't see the reason why trade doesn't happen because of lack of infrastructure, because that same infrastructure is being used to do the extra African trade.
Right.
We believe that trade promotion information is one of the key reasons why trade is not done between African countries themselves. Yes, you could improve the infrastructure, but people don't know where to go to on the continent to be able to get the necessary goods and services that they require. So as an institution, we are promoting trade promotion information. We have set up a team to do trade promotion information. One of the initiatives we had, you remember last year, in December, we launched, in partnership with the African Union, the first intra-African trade fair, which happened in Cairo, Egypt.
Right.
And it's going to be every 2 years now. The next one will be in Kigali in 2021. We are actually working towards that now. So that's one of the initiatives that the bank is trying to promote local African producers who can exhibit their goods and services and let people to know exactly what they're doing. Another area, again, is the support in terms of financing that we provide to support intra-African trade. So as part of our suite of products, whether it's a plain vanilla trade, we've also launched a product called African Trade Facilitation Program, where we are providing correspondent and trade finance lines to all African banks that are eligible. We've identified over 600 African banks, and we're working to roll out lines so that a Rwandan company buying from Nairobi, Kenya, or buying from Tanzania can use these facilities to buy. What the institution is also doing, we're also promoting local champions that we call intra-African trade champions. Right. These are African companies that have grown beyond their borders and are investing in other African countries. So we use them as agents to foster our intra-African trade agenda.
Rene, if we just take a step back and look at what you've mentioned, of course, infrastructure being one of the challenges that is currently faced with intra-African traders. Also, the African Development Bank estimates that the need or the financial gap or the infrastructure gap itself is north of $2 billion annually. As Afrexim, where do you stand on this particular conversation? What are you doing to champion this?
Yeah, that's quite important that we continue to support the infrastructure on the continent. And again, working with our project finance teams, we are looking at major infrastructure projects. For example, we are looking at roads, we're looking intra-African or regional roads, we're looking at railways, we're looking at building air transport infrastructure, we're looking at warehousing logistics. We have a program around special economic zones and industrial parks for the processing of raw materials for export. So just to show you on the infrastructure side, last year we signed an MOU with one of the largest railway companies in the world, which is the Russian Railways, to promote and build a number of railways in Africa. Right. And as you know, the African Export-Import Bank will hold its annual general meeting this year in Moscow in June, and later in October we're going to have a business forum organized by the President of the Federation of Russia. Which will bring together a large number of the 55 heads of states in Africa in Sochi. These two events are to be able to attract also foreign investment from Russia to support us in the area of infrastructure. So we would continue to work with our partners, be they development partners on the continent, be they international development partners, to identify areas where the bank can do the heavy lifting of supporting the infrastructure which the continent desperately needs to grow both its intra-African trade and extra-African trade.
Trade information is limited in Africa. In most cases, it's not even readily available, right? And this has been one of the cases that SMEs, small and medium enterprises, have faced continuously, not getting loans or credit from financial institutions all across the continent. At this current speed, where we're looking at growing intra-African trade and also supporting the small and medium enterprises, also understanding that these are actually some of the biggest contributor to the workforce on the continent, what needs to be done right now to make sure that there is trade information?
So from the bank's perspective, I did mention that it's also an initiative in the bank. Right. We set up this trade promotion information desk. We are facilitating basic compliance information on most of the African corporates or financial institutions through a program we call MANSA. So it means that if a foreign investor wants to come to Rwanda today, on the system, they can look out the laws in Rwanda, the rules around investment, the rules around the flow of capital, understand what the local banking sector, understand a local corporate that is producing coffee, so that will facilitate them to be able to enter into a negotiation with them and deliver and try to do the business. So we are facilitating that environment where we are onboarding now most of the data on an online platform, which is readily available for anybody that wants to do business in Africa.
What do you make of countries that are still slow-footed in the matters of African Continental Free Trade Area, those that have not yet signed and others that have not actually ratified this particular agreement? Are we looking at a business reality with some African countries that are actually not on board yet?
To be fair with all the countries, I think the process has been quite commendable and remarkable.
Right.
You have to understand that ratification every country has a process to go through ratification. Some of them have to go through ministerial councils, they have to go through parliaments, they have to go through Senate. We at the bank firmly believe that all the leadership of the African countries will support the African Continental Free Trade Area agreement. It's just a question of time. They will have to come to the table.
But then if we don't have the time to wait all around for this to happen?
Definitely. The continent doesn't have that time to wait. So there is urgency, there is expediency on the part of the leadership on the continent to be able to make sure that we ratify these agreements and we can start doing the business. But the issues, we must start somewhere. We need to start trading amongst ourselves even without putting all these agreements into place. We need to facilitate people to be able to sell their goods, people to be able to move their goods. One of the things we are doing again about facilitating that free movement of goods is putting in place a settlement and a payments platform. How do you trade in the various currencies in East Africa, for example? How do you trade from Tanzania shillings to Ugandan shillings? Somebody needs to be able to settle the trade between Tanzania and Uganda without going through the hard currency of another foreign country. So we are building an online platform and working with the central banks of all the African countries to see how we can play the role of a settlement and a payment platform to facilitate the movement of goods and services within African countries.